Hello, everyone. So today we are talking about what to do now that the market is essentially tanking. And so I'm looking forward to today's conversation. I know it's been a while, but here we are. So right now we have seen a lot of volatility in the stock market. Most of that is due to the tariff conversation or the ongoing tariff conversation that has been going on now for, I want to say, a bit over a month. I think we've seen a lot of volatility since the new administration took office. And so until we put this topic to rest, I think we will see a lot more volatility to come. But what is happening right now, a lot of people are panicking and in turn they're panic selling. So when we say panic selling, it means that people are feeling very emotional. They feel like they're, well, not feel, they are losing money. And in turn, they feel as if it's better for them to sell their investments just so they don't lose any additional money. And so I definitely understand how that feels like the more natural thing to do. But truthfully, that is the opposite of what you should be doing when the stock market does take a hit. And so I love to go back to the pandemic since that is the most recent time that most of us can relate to in regards to a stock market quote unquote crash. And so if you go back to March and April of 2020, the stock market definitely took a tank. And so during that time, there was so much going on globally. We had this new virus that was killing people. Thousands of people per day were dying across the globe. We were quarantining, businesses were shut down, no one was traveling, and there was just so much that was unknown. And so in turn the stock market definitely responded because of that. And so many companies were struggling financially because they could not operate. Others were struggling financially because they saw a huge dip in their revenue, and others were struggling because they just didn't have enough cash on hand to continue their day-to-day operations. And so with all of that, the stock market saw a lot of impact, right? So the stock market decreased quite significantly. And so since then, in the last 5 years, the market has rebounded quite a bit. The S&P, for example, has more than doubled in the last 5 years. But bringing the point back to the stock market tanking, if you were someone who was selling your stocks during the pandemic because you were scared, we didn't know what was happening, you were doing the same thing that's happening now. You were panic selling because you didn't want to lose any additional money. And now that the market has rebounded, you haven't seen that ROI because you gave up your positions. And so this is why it is so important when the stock market does take a hit. You have to understand that whatever is happening right now is only temporary, and you can't make a long-term decision on a short-term situation. And so the pandemic was a situation. The current tariff conversation and the current administration is a temporary situation. So we can't just use these one-off things or occurrences to drive your investment decisions. And so when you think about selling a stock, that in itself isn't what's going to keep you from building wealth. It's the why, right? There are times as an investor, you have to let certain investments go because they aren't making you any money. You don't believe in that investment anymore, or you need the cash, right? Those situations definitely are valid reasons to sell, but you can't just sell because of this feeling and emotion that you're having and you're panicking, you're nervous, and you're scared. That can't be why you are selling. You have to sell from a place of strategy and being level headed. This panic selling that people are doing right now is going to prevent them from building wealth, because once the market does rebound, and it will rebound, they won't receive the benefit because, again, you have to be in it to win it, essentially, right? And so when you think about what is happening, you kind of want to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. And so while everyone is selling, they're panicking, you want to kind of lean in and invest more if you can afford to do so. And for those who are using that approach, they will see the benefit when the market rebounds. Now, of course, the infamous question is, well, when is that going to happen? How long is this going to last? No one has a definitive answer, right? We just know that this is what we're facing right now, and this is where we are. And so as an investor, you have to really lean in on your why and what I call your investor checklist. So the why, right? Why am I investing in the market? What goals am I trying to accomplish? And that has to be at the center of every single decision that you are making when it comes to investing in the stock market or investing overall. And so I always say you want to do something that future you is going to thank you for. So for those of you who were investing during the pandemic, future you today, right? If you held on to those positions, future you today is thanking you because now you've seen the benefit of writing things out. And so writing things out just means you're investing in these assets and you're holding on and you are just seeing where things go and you're writing it out. You're riding the wave, you're riding the ups and you're riding the dips. And when you do that, you will see over time how just holding on will benefit you financially. And again, you can't let those emotions drive how you invest your money. And I know when it comes to money, money is a very emotional topic. It causes us to feel so many emotions. And while those feelings are valid, you really do have to stay level headed when it comes to how you navigate your investments. And so I will give you three things you should be doing right now that we're kind of going through this stock market volatility. And the first thing is don't panic sell. You really cannot, again, use those emotions to drive your decisions when it comes to investing. And more so, you have to kind of see what should you or what can you invest in now that the market is kind of on sale. And that is really the second thing you should be doing. You have to change your perspective when it comes to the market. And I think this second point is the hardest thing to do when there's so much noise kind of around you and kind of impacting how you feel and how you think about investing. When I know when I look at social media or the news or online blogs, those headlines, they're all negative, right? They focus on the stock market has lost $9 trillion since January 2025. The stock market dipped 5%, 10%. Everything is doom and gloom. And so when you see these headlines and you hear these conversations, you can't help but wonder, well, should I keep investing? Because nothing is going well right now. And that's a natural way to feel, but then you have to kind of go against that natural inclination that you have right now. Because truthfully, while everyone is selling, you should be buying. And I always use times like these as a way to, well, my analogy I like to use is considering this as a Black Friday sale. So when it comes to Black Friday, right, we all want something at a good price. We don't want to pay full price. We want to get a deal. And so when the stock market takes a dip, that is your opportunity to buy stocks at a cheaper price. Now, of course, when it comes to investing in any stock, whether the market is up or down, you want to make sure one, you understand what you are investing in, and two, you're actually taking the time to do some research on this company or index fund or mutual fund that you are planning to invest in. You should never invest into anything blindly. And that's the other thing that tends to trip people up is they are just buying things just for the sake of buying things. They saw something on CNBC, they saw something on Instagram, they saw something on the news, and they're just buying into these things arbitrarily. Now, while these are all places you can get information from, that can't be the only reason why you invest in certain things. And so I like to reference an investor checklist. Now, with an investor checklist, this is going to be 3 to 5 metrics that this investment has to meet in order for you to make the investment. Now, what those metrics are will be different for every investor, but there should be some kind of reference point that you're using to decide whether or not you are going to invest in a stock or an index fund or mutual fund. And my analogy to that is looking for a job. So when you are applying for a job, no one just hands you the job, right? They are going to vet you and put you through this vetting process before they hand you the job offer. So you're going to submit your application, provide your resume. When they call you in for interviews, you may do a few rounds of those interviews. If you pass that successfully, they may move on to reference checks, background checks, credit checks. And once all of those boxes have been checked off, they will then offer you the job. So you as an investor have to vet these companies in a similar fashion. Now, how you vet them, what you are looking at will differ from person to person. But again, there should be some kind of vetting process you are putting these companies through before you hand your money over to them. So maybe you are looking at whether they pay dividends or not. Maybe you care about how much cash they have on hand. Maybe you're looking at their stock price and the performance over the last 52 weeks, and how does that how does that compare to the stock price today? Maybe you care about earnings per share, right? There's so many metrics that you can reference, but you want to have a few that you're looking at to see whether or not you're going to invest in this company. And it could be, well, I'm going to invest in them. I'm going to wait, excuse me, and invest in them later, or it's a total no. I'm not investing in them at all, right? But you want to make sure you have this process in place. And truthfully, it's going to make investing a lot easier for you because you have this checklist and you're kind of just checking off the boxes. And if they meet your requirements, it's a yes or it's a no. It's a pretty simple equation. And so definitely consider doing that. And of course, as you become more experienced as an investor, your checklist is going to change. It might become a bit more complicated. You might have more things you're looking for, but again, have some way to verify what these companies are doing and if they meet your requirements as an investor. And so when you think about buying stocks at a cheaper price, that should be your ultimate goal. But for some reason, we tend to only want to invest in the market when the market's doing well. So if you look at those charts and if it's green, everyone's excited, right? The market's doing well. I want to invest more. But when the chart starts to look red and the stock and the market is declining, people run like it's the plague. And truthfully, that is the better time to invest because now, again, you're buying stocks at a much cheaper price. Now, of course, whatever price you buy a stock at, it could always go lower. So you can't time the market per se. Of course, there are people who day trade and they definitely, attempt to do that. But for the average investor, we can't do that, nor do we have the time to do that. So this is where you're going to dollar cost average your investments. So that just means you invest consistently, and sometimes you're going to pay, a price that's here. Then there are times where you're buying at a price that's lower, and there might be times where you're buying at a price that's higher. But on average, the price will be lower than if you were only buying when the market is up. And so if you are, using that strategy, you will find that it will benefit you in the long run. But again, it requires you to really lean in on the fact that you're trying to be consistent and you have to tune out the noise around you and just stay focused on the goal at hand. Now, I know when you open your portfolio, you see like, oh my God, I lost thousands or hundreds of dollars. That is not a good feeling, right? It is not. And you might feel, well, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I chose the wrong investment. Maybe I should be doing something else. Those are all natural feelings, but you can't let those feelings deter you from, again, the mission and goal at hand. So when you are tuning out the noise, becoming really focused on your goal, and let's not forget, have your investor checklist, it makes investing just that much easier. And so when I'm kind of under the weather, guys. I don't know if it's my allergies or a cold, but something has me kind of like stuffy. So I'm fighting through it the best way I can to do this live today. So when you have all of your ducks in a row, it definitely makes investing a lot easier and you can tune out the noise. And it makes investing a lot more exciting because now you're just trying to wait for that ROI to happen, right? When things start to bounce back, you feel that accomplishment of I rode out that low and now things are bouncing back. And now I'm seeing the benefit of my being disciplined and focused on the goal. And this is why it is so important to learn as much as you can about investing so you can feel more confident as you move through your investment journey. And it makes it easier to tune out the noise. The panic selling that's happening right now, I cannot tell you how that is so detrimental to people's wealth building journey. And what's going to happen is when the market bounces back, that is when they're going to want to invest again. And now they're buying stocks when they are more expensive. Whereas you, as a smart and savvy investor, you've been investing and you are going to see a better ROI than those who are panic selling. So definitely really think about that. And if you have people around you who don't get that part, you need to lean in different circles so you can kind of have the like-minded people to help you push through what is going on right now. When you don't have the right circle of people who understand the market and understand that these are just short-term occurrences, and they're like selling and telling you like you should sell, and they have negative things to say, nothing positive, that makes it hard to stay focused on the goal. So, who you're talking to on a regular basis will also impact how you approach investing. So, this is why it's so important to educate yourself, but also have different circles for different purposes, right? The circle you have for girls' night or guys' night might not be the circle you talk to investing about. Right, your workout buddies might not be the people you talk to about investing, right? And that is just how we should navigate life, right? You have your separate circles for a different conversation. That is just how we all should approach, our relationships as a whole. Now, my third thing is if investing is a bit too much for you right now from an emotional standpoint, you just can't see yourself putting any more money into the market. I totally get it. I totally understand. I don't recommend it, but I understand. So, what I would recommend you should do is kind of shift your focus to a different part of your financial house. So, this is where you're going to look at, well, what else could I work on in the meantime, between time until I feel more comfortable investing in the market? So, maybe you could focus on paying down debt. Maybe you could focus on building up your emergency fund and your savings. Or if you have an asset like a home or a business, what investments can you make to improve those assets? So, if you have a home, for example, maybe your focus is doing projects around your house to improve your home's value and the aesthetics. If you have a business, maybe you need to invest in new equipment, new softwares to make your business more efficient, or you can do things a lot faster or do things a lot cheaper. So there are ways to still invest without investing in the market. And this is why we call personal finance, right? There are things that we all need to work on in our own financial journey. And what you could be working on right now might be different than what I'm working on right now. And that's totally fine, but we all are working towards a financial goal. And so this is why and it's so important to be fluid in your thoughts, because you can't just be hard set on one thing if that one thing doesn't serve you. And you really have to navigate your finances that way. And again, being fluid in your thoughts and being fluid in your approach, right? What may have worked for you 10 years ago may not work for you present day. And what is working for you right now may not work for you 5 years from now. So it's also really important to understand when you need to shift and pivot and be okay with that, right? The being fluid is going to really make life a lot easier for you to navigate, as you just know that I am in control, right? I dictate how things are going to go, and what I'm doing is what's best for me in this season. And that's the other part. When it comes to finances, some things are just seasonal. You might be in a season of trying to buy a house, so the stock market is kind of in the rear view for right now, because your main focus is saving up for your down payment and working on your credit, and that's it. That could be the only goal until you reach it, and then you focus on the next goal, and that's totally okay. And this is why the seasonality of finances is so important, because every season looks totally different, right? Once you become a homeowner and you reach that goal, then the next goal might be, securing up your financial house, because now you've put down the down payment. Maybe you invested money in fixing up the house, and now your savings might be kind of low. So maybe now this next season, you're working on building up your savings, because you need that nest egg, especially as a homeowner, because things are going to happen. You just don't know when they're going to happen or how much it's going to cost you. So that could be the season that you're in right now, right? So there's so many things when it comes to personal finance. And so no one thing is the wrong approach. It, as long as it's serving you in this season, and that's really it. So, just to do a quick recap of what's going on, the three things you should be doing right now that the stock market is tanking. One, do not start panicking, and most importantly, do not panic sell. That is going to be the worst thing you could do right now, and it's not going to serve you in the future. When the market bounces back, and it will, if you don't have stake in the game, you won't see the benefit. So now is a great time to really lean in on your investments. Try to find the stocks that are at a better price right now and just ride the wave. And in the future you will thank today you for taking that approach of just writing things out. Second thing is to change your perspective. When things are looking down, when the market is taking that hit and it's all doom and gloom, the natural thing to do is to want to sell, right? But that is not what you should be doing right now. And what you should be doing right now is focusing on where can you maximize your investments by finding the stocks that are kind of cheaper right now because they're taking a hit. But again, those investments should be ones that you believe in, and you should be vetting them before you make the investment. So that kind of goes back to the investor checklist, making sure that you are checking off these boxes to make sure that, yes, this investment makes sense for me to invest, to add to my portfolio. Well, other thing you could be doing right now is expanding or diversifying what you are invested in. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. So if you look at your portfolio, what industries are you in? And what industries are you not invested in? And the ones where you are not invested in, now could be a good time to buy into that industry because, again, the stock market has taken a hit. So that's one thing you could do as well. And the third thing is focus on another part of your financial house if investing in the market is a bit too much for you right now. So what you could do is focus on paying down your debt, improving your credit, building up your emergency funds, or investing in an asset that you currently own. Again, it could be your house, it could be your business, it could be a piece of property, like a rental property, whatever that might be. But this could be the time for you to focus on those parts of your financial house. And then once you are more comfortable putting money back into the market, then you can focus on building up your portfolio. So that's it for today's guys live. I will see you guys again on Friday for our weekly recap. Take care.